telling me I want more, just give me more water, because they really cup up as though they're speaking to you. This is what I really wanted.
They're kind of like a pet in a way that look forward to be pampered by their owner, I guess you would say.
Well, follow me and I'll introduce you to my pumpkins. You'll love to watch them grow. It's just that they grow so fast. You turn around a couple days later, it's not a soccer ball anymore, it's a basketball. And you turn around a couple days later, it's a large beach ball. And then pretty soon it's way beyond beach ball size. And you can look at it in the morning, you can look at it in the evening, and you can see the difference in the growth. You can see how much bigger it is. But it's a little bit bigger, quite a bit bigger as a matter of fact. Come on in, let's take a look. Nothing on the face of the earth grows so fast. I mean, we're talking, anywhere, during peak growth, anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds a day or better. Now, that's a lot of weight to put on. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of flesh. That's incredible. To show you my other pumpkin. I have one pumpkin that I am growing on what I call the pumpkin hammock. It's kind of unique. You won't find another one in any pumpkin grower's patch at this point. I've designed it myself. I had this crazy notion that if I grew the pumpkin off the ground, I keep a rounded shape on the bottom of the pumpkin versus the pumpkin growing on the soil, which is just completely flat, and keep the sidewalls up better to hopefully minimize splitting. That was one of the other reasons why I grew it that way. If you'll look right up in there, you'll see a little Z cell. I think they call it a Z cell on the other side of the chain. And that is sending an electronic impulse to an indicator in my garden shed. I can actually monitor the actual weight of that pumpkin as the pumpkin is growing from small to large to harvest. And then I can take that information and graph it against and compare it to all the other climatic conditions around us by using a weather station and weather data all season long, solar radiation, moisture, whether it be natural from Mother Nature or artificial from our own tanks and watering systems. Because the information I'm starting to collect, hopefully when I get enough of it, I'll be able to find out what makes this pumpkin tick, what makes them grow, and we will be able to take that information and add another facet to it, and maybe push us over that 1,500-pound mark, 1,600-pound mark, maybe get us up to the 1-ton mark. I mean, let's get them as big as a house. Let's keep going.
I can't go any place but somebody will ask me, how's your pumpkin doing? How's your pumpkin doing? I honestly tell them I have 4 of the prettiest pumpkins that I ever grew, but they're not of the size that I dreamed of. I'm a dreamer. I have quite a lot of dreams. Fortunately, many of my dreams have come to reality over the years, over a lifetime. Sure, you got some disappointments, but there haven't been that many. And I'm very fortunate. But I still dreamed that I could have a 1,000-pound pumpkin. Of course, we know the world record is 1,460 something. I'm not looking like that, but if we could get one that weighed over 1,000 pounds, mission accomplished.
So the winner today, the largest, heaviest pumpkin is Mr. Potter.
There are about 3 components in this, and that's the soil and the seed and the luck. And I can't tell you the percentages of it, but I think probably about maybe 50% good luck. I don't know, but certainly you've got to have the proper seed. That is really the key. You just can't take any old seed and raise a giant pumpkin. So we do give these pumpkins quite a lot of care as they're growing. Once you get a female pollinated, and once it starts, say, as big as a basketball, then we like to put styrofoam underneath it to keep it out of the dirt and the mud, and you don't want any pressure on that stem. They call this pumpkin a fruit. They'll make lots and lots of vine growth But we're not raising salad, we're raising fruit. So we cut the vine growth as much as we can so that the energy goes into raising the fruit.
I would consider it gardening at its finest. The better you treat these plants, the more they respond. I mean, if you take extremely good care of them, never stress them in any way, genetically, they're all capable. These seeds these days are capable of growing at least 1,000-pounders. Right now in my patch, I have my 2 best pumpkins are growing actually off my own seed from last year. These pumpkins are kind of freakish. Something that grows 30 pounds to up to 50 pounds per day, I think would have to be labeled a freak. You know, I mean, they're just, that's, I guess, what makes them so entertaining. I've watched them grow. I mean, sometimes it doesn't look like they're growing much. I start with 6 to 8 plants. This year I have 6 plants in, but it's usually 1 or 2 that grow especially fast. And I'm not sure why, because I do the same thing to each plant. I don't know if superstition plays into it or not. There's certainly a lot of people that are into the energy thing, if they detect anything with divining rods or whatever. A grower near here, somehow he determined that he had this area basically out in the middle of a field where he was getting positive energies that he said he detected with a little pendulum. So he marked it off, and that's where he grew his big pumpkin that year. He would actually pick his pumpkin seeds for the growing year based on what the pendulum did. But I tried it, and it just seemed to just kind of hang there and it didn't do anything. So I ditched it. As far as tips and secrets go, I mean, people do some strange things with plants that probably aren't going to work. There's a lot of people that insist that milk would work really well because it has a high calcium rate, but here they charge like $2.50 a gallon for milk, so I use water, but I've heard that they inject the pumpkin with milk. I don't think I've ever tried that, but maybe I should. But I think milk is probably too expensive.
To start growing pumpkins, there's planting, acquiring the seed from a credible grower with, giant pumpkins. So you gotta get your seed, prepare the soil, generally the fall before, then you plant in May. It ends up being like a 9-month, 10-month process, never ending. Growing giant pumpkins originally started out as a hobby to bond with my 2-year-old. It has since then turned into an obsession, a large obsession. Going to Cooperstown was a motivator, definite motivator. I was walking around looking at the pumpkins and just seeing the size of the pumpkins and the sheer numbers, I forget how many there was, 40, 50, whatever. I was hooked. Definitely hooked. Man, I don't know how they picked seed or how they know that seed will give them a giant, but they know. Chances, not very good. After going to Cooperstown last year, I think there was 6 that was over 1,000 pounds, and I showed up with like 2 that were 500 pounds. These are going to be pretty low.
During the peak of the growing season, like through July and into probably the first 2 weeks in August, I'm probably putting on 100 gallons a day per plant. Basically, it's every single day. I'm running the sprinklers for sometimes several times per day in July, but usually enough to give them an inch to 2 per week. You never really know what seed is going to grow something big. So I've got seeds stored away, along with about 5,000 other seeds that I have. It's kind of a little seed vault. I always seek out some of the best genetics, what I think are the best genetics in the world. Mostly it's the pumpkin friends just trading seeds at the end of the year. All of the seeds are labeled with the seed genetics. As I get a seed, I create an inventory list so I know every seed that I have. Out of 5,000 seeds, there's probably 10 to 20 that I really want to grow. My 1231 last year was grown off a 1446 Eaton plant, which was the world record the year before, and I pollinated it with a 1420 and a half LaRue, which was, I believe, the second biggest healthy pumpkin ever grown in the world. So I took the two biggest pumpkins ever grown in the world and put them together. I've kind of put everything into the giant pumpkins and give it all I have.
I don't think I've ever had an actual green thumb for it. I enjoy gardening. I'm a chemist by nature. I know how chemicals work, but I think it's more than just knowledge of elements and chemicals and chemistry. There's a knack and there's a technique to it. Now again, you have to remember that unlike a lot of the big growers that have the big farms, I do it in my backyard and I do it mainly for fun and for enjoyment.
And he started out with the little ones, but I guess it wasn't good enough for him. I used to have an herb garden back there. No more.
If this part is growing inward, this is an innie. And if the shape of it is coming out more like this, pushing out, that would be an outie.
Dave is the kind of person who, when he gets into something, it's with both feet. He does it with everything, and he has to learn everything about it. He joins the associations. He chats online with all these other pumpkin growers about genetics and how big their pumpkins were. I guess it's a male thing, and they will talk about what they're doing and compare sizes. It can get a little crazy sometimes. Well, fertilization's a big thing with pumpkin growers because they have to make sure that the genetics are pure. It's almost like sort of safe sex. He actually borrowed my stockings to put over the top of the blossoms and to cover it so that a random bee wouldn't come along and accidentally pollinate the pumpkin with some random pollen that he had no control over. So it's pumpkin sex. Basically, our neighbors and all the people that know him, oh yeah, Dave had to have pumpkin sex this morning because he does it at 6 o'clock in the morning. The blossoms have to be just right. The male has to be just right. The female has to be just right. And that, I think, is a little crazy. I don't tell too many people about that.
This year, I've had problems. I've pollinated over a dozen plants that never took. So I got a pumpkin growing that started very late. I don't think it'll go any more than 300 pounds the most. So as far as doing well at one of the weigh-offs, I don't think I will do well. There's two plants, one growing on this way and one growing this way. This one I've taken more care of to this point. And you can see the leaves are a little bit in better shape. Now some bugs are starting to get to them. Generally, the two major things that I look for are the cucumber beetles and the squash vine borers. These are examples of the cucumber beetles that can attack the plant. These little insects can very easily ravage a whole leaf in a day. The cucumber beetles are pretty easy to see, and generally if you see them, you spray for them, and they're usually taken care of. But if you start noticing one of these squash vine borers around, which is a little red insect about so big, then you have to start looking for eggs. And if you see the eggs, that's where the larvae come from, and if the larvae develop, your plant's pretty much done for the year.
The first one I seen, I really can't put my finger on what it is that draws you. You just see it, and it's just something that grabs a hold of you and jerks you. It's kind of awe-inspiring. I don't know. My brother-in-law brought me a couple of seeds about 25 years ago, and he said to me, you might be interested in trying this. And I did, and I got hooked. I only got really serious in the last 10 years or so about growing a real big one. I would very much like to grow a 1,000-pounder. That's my dream. The other growers are shooting for 1,500 pounds. That's a plateau that hasn't been reached. I started with 3 plants, and I have 1 remaining. We had a hurricane on Labor Day weekend, and it beat my plants up pretty good. The first one I lost was a 1068 Wallace. The fruit itself got up to 300 pounds and just stopped growing. And then I had a LaRue 1420.5, and that got a blossom end split the 3rd week of August. Some of the growers say it's a deficiency in calcium, but I really don't know what caused it. The plant that I have remaining is from a seed that I grew last year. The fruit right now weighs a little over 800 pounds. The fruit is doing very well. The plant's not so good, but everything else looks good. I'm doing liquid calcium, and every other day I take a gallon of calcium and bathe the pumpkin in that. We used to have a creamery in Jeffersonville, and I went to the creamery and got milk cans full of their waste milk, and I just put it around the vine. It's supposed to help with the calcium, but I think it's an old wives' tale. You don't want to overfeed it. You can get them to grow too fast, and they grow too fast, they're more prone to splits. I've had pumpkins grow 40 pounds a day. There was a week where every day you could go in the garden and see the growth that it was making. Yeah, I can stand on my porch and look out into the garden and see it.
You get very attached to them after spending, a lot of time with them, caring for them. Very attached. Pumpkins are extremely fragile in a lot of ways. They require a real lot of babysitting. They are many times worse than an infant, taking care of a baby.
I do name my pumpkins. Randy, I don't believe names his pumpkins, but my pumpkin's called Shasta. So it's like my daughter.
Shasta, let's check out your vine and make sure you're all nice and loose and there's no pressure on you.
I think the plants can hear. I do talk to them. They don't do anything. They don't talk back. But I'm hoping they're listening, and I'm always telling them, grow bigger, grow bigger. Her face looks like a daisy, has like the big petals all the way around.
And you were perfect.
That is the most beautiful pumpkin. Just don't go around and look at her backside because she's ugly. She looks like a fat woman bending over. So I can say. She has a crack right down the middle, perfect rat. Big fat woman bending over. Since we don't have children, these are our children. And when they do go down or something happens to them, I actually stand out in the patch and cry my eyes out. And I don't want anybody to talk to me at that time. I just get very upset and cry. We had a mouse problem. We had a pumpkin that was well over 700 pounds, growing nicely, and my dad happened to come down, and he's like, this is such a beautiful pumpkin. He went to wrap his arms around the pumpkin, and as he did it, the pumpkin went down. Randy and I went over to look at the pumpkin that went down and discovered that a mouse had eaten up through. I was pissed because this beautiful pumpkin went down to a mouse. So I went to town. I was going to kill every mouse in the country. I set up over 150 mouse traps around the pumpkin, 3 wide. They were arranged so that if you went through one, you didn't get through 2, and you definitely weren't getting through the 3rd one. And it was named Ring of Death. And I was bound determined that no mouse was ever going to get another pumpkin of mine. The only good mouse around here is a dead mouse.
There is absolutely no vacations going on from from April all the way until October. We really don't go away for more than a day, and you know, every step of the way is, you know, I wonder how the pumpkins are doing. I wonder what the temperatures are like. I wonder if they need water. You know, the sacrifice of time, money, and we're pretty much out in the pumpkin patch, my wife and I, at least 4 hours a day. Got this rib right here.
Okay, go down to the bottom. Tom had taken half of the backyard the year before and prepped it. And come that springtime, he decided that he wanted the whole backyard because half the yard wouldn't be good enough. So he promised me that he would go buy me a minivan if he could have the backyard. So I gave him the backyard and I got a minivan. I think we're going to go for a Lexus next.
Lovely.
Once you've done it once, and once you see how these things grow, you just get so involved. So you kind of use all your spare moments that you have in the patch to do everything you have to do. No weed left standing, you know, things like that. Anything that detract from the nutrition being fed to the pumpkin. But it does take away time from the family. There's no doubt about it. You know, maybe I'll miss a soccer match, you know, for the little girl or something like that. No, you should be there, you know. But geez, I gotta feed the pumpkin, and you know it's gonna get dark, and it'll be dark by the time the soccer match is over. So sometimes it interferes there. My family tolerates my time here. They just don't understand how much is really involved because they aren't up here doing it. They won't come up and help me, no, that's for sure. Pumpkins are part of your family because you spend so much time with them. You have one pumpkin on one plant, and you've spent all this time and effort to get that just to the point before it fruits. Once it fruits, now you're pushing the fruit to grow as large as it can, and hopefully it holds together for you because you're pushing it to the limit. And if something goes wrong and awry, it's sort of like losing a child.
As time went by and the pumpkin grew bigger and bigger, the farmer tried to keep it safe and happy. He built a fence around it. He kept the weeds away. He tucked it in to keep it warm. But try as he might, he couldn't protect the pumpkin from all the dangers that lurked in the big wide world.
There are a lot of enemies of the giant pumpkin. Deer, woodchucks, rodents. I've never had a problem myself with animals, but I've heard of it happening many, many, many times.
You're constantly battling something. You're battling elements, you're battling weather, you're battling bugs, you're battling disease, you're battling animals. Last year I had woodchucks. And I was going nuts trying to chase them out of my patch.
You'd see the woodchuck out the kitchen window and he'd run out the door screaming at him, and he's just like running after this woodchuck, and I'm like, oh God, help the woodchuck.
Where I initially saw the woodchuck was coming under this area.
He would just grab anything inside, a baseball bat, a hoe, a rake, whatever.
There was another hole down toward the pumpkin patch.
And he'd be chasing after that woodchuck. He looked a little crazy that day, and all because of this woodchuck.
Eventually, I had to learn, because I had never done it before, how to catch them.
He'd get on the pumpkin chat line and they'd give him all kinds of advice on how to get the woodchuck. And of course, they're always saying, well, just a 45 and psh, blow him away. And, you know, you can't do that in our neighborhood.
I fenced all my gardens in because I have had trouble with woodchucks. They're sneaky. You don't see them. In a day's time, they'll take care of a plant to wipe it right out. I've electrified the fence because I've had trouble with woodchucks more than any other animal. I had the fence on one night and the woodchucks got into the fence, woke me up overnight. That's how loud they were screaming. They get zapped really good. They don't want to come back.
And he tried to catch this woodchuck.
I didn't have any luck down here or in the middle. I set the trap along the edge. There was another hole under the fence.
After he caught a squirrel and a bird and our cat, and after all those attempts, he finally caught him. He was so thrilled, but it was too late for his pumpkin patch. He'd already eaten it down to nothing.
I've also resorted to obtaining a .22 and popping a few of them. Woodchucks, they're usually out earlier in the morning or later in the afternoon, so you'd position yourself and wait for them to come. And anytime I see a woodchuck around the garden, I set myself in there and take care of them.
Oh, I worry about them, yeah. Like they're my children. You know, pumpkin growers have plenty of different nightmares. You wake up and your pumpkin's gone. Your pumpkin is split. Your pumpkin's not as big as you thought. It's too hot for them. If they're, there's animals in the patch. There's plenty of different nightmares to be had, I guess.
I think we're going to go for Alexis next.
Last year at Cooperstown, mine was 8th heaviest. The pumpkin I'm going to take to Cooperstown is from Joe Pulco's a seed that came from a pumpkin that weighed 1,231 pounds that Joe had last year. Circumference. That is my largest one that I believe, according to the measurements and the formula we have for measuring. I got 116. Hopefully it won't disgrace me because of its size. Come over here. 75. It hasn't changed any. I don't think it will. I think it'll just be, it's a fine pumpkin. I can't deny it. I like to have people tell you that you've not raised a great pumpkin. I enjoy challenges. I have all my life. And I think if we didn't get some real pleasure and satisfaction out of seeing this happen, why, that's what life is all about. I guess it's human nature to me.
My patch was actually growing at a pretty decent rate, but the series of events that went wrong with me this year was mainly water and disease. Yeah, water can be your friend, it can be your enemy. This year, definite enemy. I think in June we had 6+ inches, if not 7 inches of water. July, about the same, 7 inches. But we had a few floods where my patch was physically under a foot of water.
It's Tuesday, the 27th of June.
When you have water just sitting there for a month, month and a half, the soil's waterlogged. It's a breeding grounds for fungus, disease.
Oops, left my hammer out here last night. Well, those pumpkins are underwater, 120 little fellas.
You do wake up in nightmares every once in a while. And then, oh my God, you know, the cucumber beetles are coming or the vine borers are coming. There are at least a half a dozen growers that I personally know that have had problems with patch sabotage. Incidents of hammers being taken to the pumpkins. We did have a problem with a grower who was jealous of what we had grown in the past, and we had somebody come in and spray weed killer on a couple of our plants right in our garden.
I wanted to hurt the person. And I hope to God I do catch the person and that they go to jail.
I have surveillance cameras mounted that oversee the patch.
Of course, I'm not going to tell anybody where they are. But we are watching.
This is just an ugly year, very ugly. I thought it couldn't get any worse, and it did yesterday.
Here we have the 998 Pucos.
With my largest pumpkin going down. It's going to be a science project tomorrow. We'll dissect it. We'll see what it looks like on inside wall thickness. Maybe save seeds if they're not too far gone or whatever. And then it'll go back into garden as compost. 500+ pounds worth of compost. Sometimes I begin to wonder, is it worth that? Because of years like this year, I mean, with flooding and disease, I don't have the patch that I could have or should have had. So therefore, a lot of effort, time wasted. Maybe I could have been spending it with my kids.
When you cut your pumpkin off the vine and it's time to harvest, it's sort of like cutting the umbilical cord to your baby. You're no longer going to feed that pumpkin anymore. It is done at that point. From that moment, you make that slice, that pumpkin starts losing weight.
When you have to cut that vine to load them on the truck is very painful because you know that the end of the season is there and whatever you have to take it away off is what you've got. You get rid of that. And there's no more chance that that pumpkin is going to grow any bigger.
I think it's more like you've had this baby and it's grown to maturity and you're letting it go. It's leaving the nest.
I do cry sometimes when we do cut it from the vine. I just run in the house real quick, cry, wipe my eyes, come back out.
They're pretty fragile. We have lifting harnesses and just the wrong way and they can crack and, you know, if they split, you'll see a grown man cry.
It is bittersweet at the end of the year. You spent the last 5 or 6 months prepping the soil, planting the seed, watching the plant grow. And I guess it would be kind of like having your child, and then all of a sudden, now they're going to college.
She is heavy.
It's the end. You're not going to spend much more time with the pumpkin, but once you get to the pumpkin festival, you kind of forgot about cutting it from the vine, and the sadness is gone because now it's, here I am and look at me.
The Way Off is definitely a very important part of the year for me. I mean, for show-offs, you know, that's part of the alert. You know, we like to show them off. Hey, this is what I do, you know.
Just to get the pumpkin to the Way Off is a real feat. You can put a ton of effort in it, and one day before the Way Off, a pinhole can develop in the pumpkin. And you're done. You can't weigh it off. It is illegal to weigh at that point. It is not admissible to competition. Your whole month of September, you're probably on edge, and you're probably very, very nervous.
If I can get this pumpkin to the Way Off, I know it's going to be a top 10, you know, and we'll see. There's a lot of big pumpkins out there.
Doggy.
When the farmer had decided that the pumpkin had grown really big, he took it to the market. He wanted to see if it was as big as the other farmers' pumpkins.
One pumpkin.
Well, we thought we had a decent one going on until we saw these other guys come in with huge, huge fruit. It's a good show. It's going to be a wild Way Off. We should have a new state record, if not a world record here. So it's great. It's going to be real nice.
What happened was, no, it doesn't. What happened was I went back to check it, and I didn't tent it, and the skin got too hard, and then I went up there and got a big rainstorm and went.
Number 10 is pumpkin number 10 is Debbie. Here I am. Debbie, are you here?
This all seeping starting to come from the pumpkin, and within about a week, it pretty much developed a rot in the hole, and if you start to lift it up, you could almost put your hand right into it.
I was disappointed too. It looked like it was crying because it had almost like little tears around the stem. But we'll try again. We've definitely got pumpkin envy.
They were saying the biggest one will go 1,500 pounds, and it looks to me like 5 or 6 of them or 7 will go over 1,000 pounds.
Is this yours on the end?
I'm the third one over.
Oh, that looks huge.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice pumpkin.
Do you have any idea what it weighs?
I'm thinking it's going to be over 1,100, but you never know what's going on inside them. You know, it could be 4 inches thick or a foot thick, depending what's going on in there. The measurements put it over 1,100, but we'll see.
174 and a half. Woo! It wasn't really the year for me to grow pumpkins. I put in 2 plants when I wasn't planning on putting any in. And I didn't really care how they made out. One of them was, in particular, was so I could grow it on my sling, what I call my pumpkin hammock, because I'm trying to grow that pumpkin growth study. That's the important thing to me this year, and it's still growing, so I don't figure it a loss at all. I did find out that my second pumpkin had a split, a long split, underneath the pumpkin. It was disappointing, yet the pressure was off. I didn't have to worry about hauling a pumpkin up here and competing with all these other giants.
What was your first competition? 1981.
Rumors are this year that Craig Lemke from Forestville, New York, has one that is now off the charts. I really hope he does. He's been growing 20 plus years. He's had a dry spell for the past 8 or 10 years where pumpkins haven't been going his way. He's had some patch sabotage. He could do it.
Okay, folks, we're just about ready for the beginning of the weigh-in. What we would like first is to welcome everybody to the 2006 New York State Pumpkin Growers Weigh-In. We would like to have all the pumpkin growers please come up to the tent right now. If you are here, please come up to the tent. There's a form that has to be filled out. Competition.
Start getting real competitive once you meet the growers. Oh, I can beat you. That's, next year I'll break the 500-pound barrier, 1,000-pound, whatever. But you go to enough competitions and you can't help it. You're addicted. You do anything you can to hopefully come back with a larger one next year.
Great color. Any difference? Why is the color that color compared to the others, you know?
The season's been an ugly season with all the disease and rain and plants dying 2 months ago. I'm happy to just bring anything.
Okay, the weight is 363.3. Good going.
My dream one would be to beat Bernie. This year, I thought I had Bernie beat. I still may have him beat. It's going to be close, though, because his measurements, circumference with a tape, is slightly larger than mine. It's going to be a showdown at Cooperstown.
When we get to the giant pumpkins, things change a little bit. Judges will now come over. Okay, what they're doing now is they're checking, the judges are checking for soft spots. Yeah. Sometimes it will sit in one spot.
Last year we had the 8th heaviest, and I would be surprised if I got in the top 20 this year. That would be my guess.
Mr. Potter's 82, and he still loves it. He drives down with his own truck and his own pumpkin. And the official weight is 5064. 5064.
Oh, good. No, I'm not disappointed. I was careless to let my plants freeze early in the season. I'm really happy that I got one that is over 500 this year. The reality is, you know how many growing seasons I've got. It might be one, it might be 10. I'd like to have a 1,000-pound pumpkin before I cash in my trips.
Okay, the official weight.
All right.
Is that it?
755.
755.6.
Yes.
Wow. That is huge.
So she went heavy.
Heads up behind you.
I need it.
The giant pumpkin. This is Richard Fogler. Richard Fogler.
So you weigh the light ones first, and the heaviest one is last. When they get up to 700 pounds, I keep track, and I have a rough idea what my pumpkin weighs and how it's going to fare.
Hopefully it's going to go around 900 pounds.
The official weight, 857.3. Whoa.
My personal dream, to be honest with you, was always just a new personal best.
Okay, what do you think? 4 digits? 1,000 pounds? Judges will now come over. They will check the whole pumpkin. They check underneath. If there are any soft spots, they have a probe. If the probe goes into the pumpkin is disqualified. So this becomes a very serious kind of judging at this level.
When my pumpkin's lifted and it goes to the scale, I hold my breath.
It's on the scale.
You know what you think it is, you know what you want it to be. You're hoping it doesn't have any cracks or anything else, and there's definitely a lot of drama.
Here we go. And the official weight, 1,044. Going. Oh my God.
The competition in Cooperstown is pretty wild this year. From what I've heard, even a 1,000-pounder is going to be lucky to hit top 10. My pumpkin weighed 1,044 pounds. Oh, I'm about 3 steps from fainting, but
It used to be you could grow a 1,000-pound pumpkin and you could win the tournament. Now I think you have to grow a 1,200-pound pumpkin, and from year to year, it seems to just go up.
And here comes Joe Pucos. This is his pumpkin coming up.
Last year, I think there were 6 pumpkins over 1,000 pounds at Cooperstown.
Joe, how do you like this one?
I like it. It's got a lot of blossom area, and we'll see. We'll see in a couple minutes.
Are you a little excited?
I'm quite excited, yeah.
It's pretty stressful because usually you can see the forklift and it's bringing your pumpkin and it's inching closer to the scales. And I think I was standing there last year. Guy got a picture of me. I'm standing there. I'm like, oh geez. And I just, yeah, it's pretty nerve wracking until they actually get it on the scales.
Okay, here we go.
I'm hoping the pumpkin weighs 1,100 pounds. We'll see. We'll see.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh, stop.
You are a riot.
Bill's on the scale. Okay, the official weight of Joe Puco's pumpkin is 1225.3. 1225.3.
Joe, good job, Joe. Beautiful, buddy. Watch everything I don't know.
Yeah! So Joe's 1225. Good going, Joe. Congratulations. Here we go.
Let me see that look.
The deer in the headlight look?
One thing, Randy and his wife, their expressions, their feelings don't show on their faces at all.
Nervous?
Nah.
Liar.
So this is it. The official weight is 1,043.3. 1,043.3.
You have that radiating pain like I had?
So now we're getting ready for the last pumpkin. Bagro K. Craig.
Whatever the case is, that's a beautiful pumpkin and it's huge. Yep, it is huge. This thing is a beast.
So 1,400 plus. Let's hope 15. Let's break it. Break the record. And the official weight of the last pumpkin of the 2006 pumpkin weigh-in in Cooperstown, New York is 1,091.7. 1,091.7. So there's a long hush. Wow. 1,000, that's a great pumpkin, but for some reason, I guess everybody thought it'd be bigger than that. That's a beauty. 1,091.7. It looked a lot bigger. I don't know what to say.
I would swear the scales are off.
I know it hurts. I know how bad it hurts. Because I've been there before, too. We all have.
It's because it's got the straps and stuff still on it.
Yeah,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
We'll go with what we got.
We feel for him. I mean, obviously, it's a shame. Again, it'll take Craig a few days to snap out of this one, I'm sure, but we're with him no matter what. We'll always back him.
I mean, you shouldn't be ashamed of that pumpkin.
No,
you
it's
know. I know.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going on inside those things.
You know, you got to get over it, you know? Go on. I felt that it was going to really, be a new world record, and then, yeah, I've had others that have been light over the last few years, and thought we had it fixed, but felt like somebody ripped my heart out.
Can we have the winners please come line up by their pumpkins? Randy, number 5.
Congratulations, Randy.
And your weight, Randy, was?
1,041, I think.
Congratulations. Thank you. And number 4, Tom. Boy, nice job. Here's Tom.
Some of the farmers were happy, and some of the farmers were sad. One farmer was the happiest of all.
And number 1, Joe Pucos.
But however they felt, they all said that they wanted to keep growing pumpkins and come back in another year. Most important of all, they all lived happily ever after.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Lords of the Gourd is available on videocassette or DVD. To order, call PBS Home Video at 1-800-PLAY-PBS.
We are PBS.
Hi, I'm Ann Police. Stay tuned for today's news from Orange County on Real Orange. Expand your mind with KOCE, your PBS.
Thank you for being a part of the KOCE TV family. Each month, many millions of Southern Californians rely on KOCE for the best of PBS and important local programs. Your generous contributions make it all possible. Some of you got a letter from me requesting continued support for television that uplifts and enlightens. Your investment is a vital part of our partnership with each other. Please mail in your gift of support today to enable us to continue our mission of quality public media, education, and community service. And whether you got a letter from me or not, you can always help by contributing online at koce.org. PBS is America's most trusted television. Please step up and turn that trust into support so we can continue serving you and your family. Thanks.
They were the men and women who made the movies in Germany. But when they were forced to leave,
I am forbidden to work for any film studio.
They came here,
Hollywood. You have to adjust yourself to a new culture.
And created a classic new American style.
Film noir.
Take the journey from Hitler to Hollywood.
Somehow we muddled through. Some of us made it.
With Cinema's Exiles.
Thursday at 9 on KOCE. You're watching KOCE, your Orange County, your PBS.